From a life on your own to a family of your own. From walking her to school to walking her down the aisle. From the saddest endings to happier beginnings. Avida.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to another leg of Inclusive, the Inquire webinar series presented by the Philippine Daily Inquire's Property section and Avida Land. I am Tex Samaniego, editor of the Property section, and I will be your host for the day. Today, we'll be zooming in on the next generation buyers, from the millennials to the Gen Z, as many believe this is a market to watch out for. We would like to know and understand more about them, their buying behavior, their requirements, wants, and whims, and how this market can help prop up consumer spending while the country seeks to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. We often hear this phrase, add to cart, increasingly so during the pandemic when many turned to online shopping for their needs. If you think about it, this latest buzzword tells a lot about our next-gen buyers. And if we were to understand them, we should know what makes them want to add to cart, what draws them to a particular product, and the factors that affect their buying decisions. We need to take a closer look into the items that go into their cart, how much their preferences have changed, and if the cart, that consideration basket, so to speak, now includes big-ticket items like a home. We'll also provide tips to our next-gen buyers as to how they can start investing in real estate. Before we officially start, we would like to again thank Avida Land for co-presenting this event with us, and also the organization that supported us in this project, Colliers International Philippines and Wong & Bernstein Advisory Group. Now, let me introduce our first speaker, Professor Eric Soriano III. He was the former country president and CEO of Electronic Realty Associates, the former chairman of the board of SunTrust Developers, the founding head of Mega World Lifestyle Malls, the founding CEO of Resorts World Manila, the former vice president and group head for business development of Greenfield Development Corp., and the former strategic advisor of JG Summit Group. Today, he is the executive director for ASEAN Real Estate Policy, the independent director of Resorts World, a real estate consultant for policy and strategy, and the executive director of Wong & Bernstein Group, an Asia-Pacific-based strategic advisory firm that specializes in family, governance, succession, and next-generation leadership. Welcome, Prof.
Hey, thank you, Tech. Thank you also to my co-resource. It's always an honor. It's a pleasure. And I'm excited to share a lot of things about the add to cart phenomena. So again, thank you for this invitation coming from Avida and Inquire Real Estate.
Thank you, Prof. Now, our second guest speaker is Joey Roy Bondo. He's the Senior Research Manager at Colliers International Philippines. He covers office, residential, retail, leisure, and industrial segments, conducts macroeconomic analysis, and regularly assesses the impact of economic growth to the real estate sector. Our speaker also handles client engagement through market overview presentations to equity analysts, property investors, and real estate firms. His reports have been featured on national news programs such as CNN, Philippines, Market Edge, ANC, Bloomberg Philippines. They've also been featured in international and national dailies such as the Philippine Daily Inquirer, Wall Street Journal, South China Morning Post, Bloomberg, and Nikkei Asia. He's been regularly invited as resource speaker by real estate platforms and industry groups such as the Manila Real Estate Boards, Philippine Association of Realty Appraisers, Real Estate Brokers Association of the Philippines, Lamudi, and Hoppler. Welcome, Joey.
Hi, Tech. Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting Colliers and for letting us share our insights this afternoon. Of course, in the property market, we're seeing new trends, especially during the pandemic and after the imposition of lockdown across the country. But one market that has really been aggressive, and I believe that is really something to watch out for, is the millennial market, those that really love to add to cart. And it's interesting how that we can further delve into this market and see how the property market can benefit from this demand driver moving forward.
Thank you, Joey. Meanwhile, joining us today is someone who will talk about the joys of online purchases and the factors that affect or influence her buying behavior. Pam Pastor started working as a journalist when she was 17. She grew up in the newsroom of the Philippine Daily Inquirer, where she is now the editor of the pop culture section Super and youth section To Be You. She is the author of books Paper Cuts and Planet Panic, and one of the editors of the books Youngblood 4, 5, 6, and 7. She is the vocalist of the band Mosey. In December 2015, Pam was diagnosed with clinical depression and anxiety disorder and has been using her voice to end the stigma against mental illness. Pam is also into collecting books, toys, and nail polish, among others. Welcome, Pam.
Hi, everyone. Yes, like Tech said, I am an add to cart expert, meaning I add way too many things to my carts. But I'm really excited to be here because I feel like I have a lot to learn from our resource persons. And I really think that I need to kind of have a shift in the way I view spending so I can start making smarter investments. And I think that's something that people watching can also relate to.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Now that we've introduced our panelists, we will start with what looks to be an exciting discussion. As I've mentioned, we are here to find out who exactly are the next-gen buyers, as well as provide this market a few tips on how they can start investing in their dream home. If we better understand our buyers, we will be able to somehow find ways to better address their needs, attract them as a market, and harness their potential as a possible game changer. Okay, let's start off with this question for Prof. Prof, who is this so-called next-gen buyers and how big is this segment? I mean, what kind of buyers do we have in this market and how big do you think is their impact to the economy?
Good question, Tech. I remember at the last quarter of 2020, I was invited to be a resource for a real estate forum for the Asia Pacific market, and the audience size was around 2,000. Not in the Philippines. So I was a resource for a Singapore group that was meant to talk to the 2,000 attendees virtually. And the first thing I asked, so what comprised this 2,000 attendees? Gen Y and Gen Z. Okay, which means those who were born from 1981 up to anywhere from 1981 to 1996. So we're talking about Pam's age, and maybe even Joey's age, right? So, and what was the topic of my talk? Real estate, plain and simple. And what kind of what kind of areas should we be tapping? Markets in Thailand, Indonesia, the Philippines, because the bulk of the 2,000 were from China and India. So suddenly I had to do a lot of research, and I found out that even before that virtual forum, Asia Pacific millennials were massively buying in these countries that were mentioned, including the Philippines. And I further researched that in Asia Pacific, there are 1 billion millennials. And a big chunk of that are Chinese millennials that would be buying in droves. And the country of choice then, the past 4 years, is Thailand. So just to give you some numbers, in Thailand, from 2017 annual, Chinese millennials would be buying 50% of all foreign-driven demand. So 50%, so there are 40,000 units that are sold, mostly condos. Half of that are literally being lapped up by this Chinese generation Y and Z. So yes, it's a massive market out there. And the Philippines apparently is one of those countries that are in the radar of this investing demographic. And if you have the add to cart, they actually call it the swipe right. Tawag naman nila swipe right. It's a credit card thing. I don't know. At first it was so alien. They call it swipe right. So I don't know. Swipe right? I don't know. But that's why when you said add to cart, when you sent the material, I said, we normally call it swipe right. Because when I was assigned in Singapore 20 years ago, the millennial market were obsessed with 3 C's: cash, cars, and condominiums. So this topic is so appropriate, very timely, because it highlights the massive movement of real estate in our country and other countries like Indonesia and Thailand. So it's huge. We may not be topping it, but I totally feel it. And even 2 years before, big developers have had movements of real estate condos that have been purchased by overseas generation X, Y, and Z. So that's the extent of that market that must be tapped. And I think it's just appropriate that institutionally big developers must seriously consider.
But Prof, do you think we're already doing enough to entice this market?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The buying behavior in this market, their appetite is so huge. They're tech savvy. I believe we have not reached a point where we're delivering 500 million US in sales for this market. We're probably just hitting a certain figure, but we haven't reached a certain level where we can qualify as a big exporter of these condominiums to this market. So maybe we are topping 10-20% of that market, unfortunately.
Thank you, Prof. Well, Joey, listening to Prof. Eric, it seems that it has a very good potential as a market. But I would like to get your thoughts about this segment. I mean, when it comes to big ticket items like real estate investment, would you say that we are also seeing the same kind of demand? And how much of this segment is into property buying? And how can developers actually benefit from it?
If you look at total condominium demand all over Metro Manila, interestingly, it is the affordable to mid-income and then the mid-income to upscale condominium segments, price segments that are driving the market. So when you talk about these price segments, you are talking about price points of between 1.7 to 3.2 million and then 3.2 million to 6 million pesos. And all over Metro Manila, we have young urban professionals that have really been driving the demand for these condo units, for these price segments, even before the pandemic. And not only that, we have a lot of young Filipinos working abroad, and a very viable investment option for these mobile and dynamic Filipino workers abroad is a condominium investment. So they have been also helping drive that demand for condominium units in Metro Manila and even all over the country. But what we have seen, especially during the pandemic, is that a lot of developers, investors have been trying to capture the demand from this specific segment of the population, because they were able to save during the pandemic. They realized that with the pandemic and another epidemic or pandemic might again affect the country or the world in the future, they realize that, okay, I need to invest now in a property. And also they've realized that they need to invest in a property that could help them generate passive income in the future. So overall, if you look at the demand for the affordable to mid-income and up to the upscale condos, which are priced from 1.7 up to about 8 million pesos per unit, this market, the millennials, the add-to-cart market, is definitely helping drive that demand. But I agree with Prof. I think the developers can further capture this market. I think aside from offering extended, attractive payment terms, developers can maximize the fact that their projects, their condos are situated near the infrastructure projects that will be developed from 2021 and even beyond the pandemic. And also the fact that the mortgage rates at this point are very low and competitive. So these are just some innovative ways on how developers can further tap the demand from this segment.
Joey, you mentioned about tapping the demand from this market. I think my next question goes to our market, the add to cart market expert, Pam Pastor. Natatawa na si Pam. How would you describe your shopping behavior? Are you one of those who keep adding on to cart? And how much of these items actually reach the checkout counter?
I think my shopping behavior, if like financial experts would look at it, would be described as horrific. But before I go there, I wanted to say to Prof that parang for the Philippine millennial market, when you say swipe right, that's more used in dating apps. Like people swipe right on people they want to match with, diba?
Really?
So yeah. You can blame Tinder for that. So yeah, my gosh, my spending habits are really a bad example. So I think that's a good reason to have me here as parang the what not to follow for millennials watching. You know how si Marie Kondo was trying to get people to live a minimalist life by asking themselves, does this spark joy? The problem with me is too many things spark joy, so I keep buying them. I keep adding them to cart and checking them out. And things don't even stay in my cart for long. You know how some people say, parang you keep it in your cart, and then if you really want it, like a week later, you check, no, like if I want it now, I just go for it. So it's a really bad thing, but I think it's become a coping mechanism, not just for me, but because I also did a story on this some months back na parang have you been shopping online during the pandemic? And a lot of people said, like me, initially they weren't shopping, but then eventually people started buying things that they normally wouldn't spend on. And these were pricey things na parang like, but then, because of the pandemic, people have justifications like, oh, I need a really nice office chair, so I'll spend 25,000 on that, mga ganon. I haven't bought an office chair, by the way. I've been buying toys instead of office things. But yeah, and it makes you think, because when you're adding to cart all the time and you're shopping, you may think these are little items, but when you add them, which I don't, which I should, in reality, they can be the equivalent of big ticket items that I normally avoid. So this is making me reflect on my shopping behaviors and yeah, because parang I think it's funny to me when I say that my only investments are my books, my toys, and my shoes. Pero in reality, like, holy crap, I've been working for so long, but I have no like real investments to show for it. So Prof and Joey will have a lot to teach me today.
Looking at your social media accounts, I've seen that you've been an avid add to cart customer. So, what are the factors? Is it out of whim, impulse? What affects that buying behavior?
I've always been an impulsive shopper. Hindi ako planner. Like, if I see something and I like it, I'll go for that. And the problem also is I have a tendency to obsess over things. So if I like something, I really like it, and for a long period of time, I would keep buying that. Like, I went through my nail polish phase. I haven't bought new nail polish in years, but I still use all the ones that I bought, and there's so many of them. I feel like I can change nail colors every day.
Sorry, would you be willing to share like how many?
Oh my God. Siguro nasa 1,000 bottles.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. But bawas na yan because like I used to do pag may typhoon, like I would do diba, like a thing in the office like polish for panties where I'd sell nail polish tas buy underwear for the typhoon victims, mga ganyan. So that was my way of getting rid of some of them, but I still have a lot. I can still change my nail color every day for several years without repeating.
Ano na yan? Add to cloud cart.
Diba? Talagang, yeah. So,
add to cart.
so talaga, I think I think I'm an extreme example naman, but you'll be surprised because a lot of people, like, all these things that I am into, kunyari, the toys, there are communities of people who are into it. So there are really a lot of us who spend on these things. Pero maybe some of them are more in control than I am. And I think parang we get so used to instant gratification. Now, when you think about like if I buy a house, it's gonna take forever. Tas parang ang habang commitment and all of these things. I think these are like the mindsets that I think I need to change in myself. And maybe in other millennials also. Kasi parang it's such a commitment. Like I would, yun na nga parang before this, diba, people were saying millennials were spending more on travel, on experiences. I'm the same way. Like if I would spend a lot of money on traveling, on experiencing things, ganyan. Pero bakit yung down payment for a house sounds so like out of this world to me, diba? So yeah, something needs to change.
Oh, thank you, Pam. Prof, can buyers like Pam be converted? I mean, how can developers actually convince this type of market? And also, would it be wise for them to actually, considering the current situation, it's a pandemic, to add a big ticket item such as a condo or a property into their shopping cart, figuratively?
Okay. I'll probably use my example. If I were Pam's age, my biggest regret when I was Pam's age was to actually not buy real estate. So I'm playing catch up now. I'm a Gen X, and how I wish I could be a millennial so I can grow my portfolio. So this catch up is what I can consider a likelihood of a pent up demand for real estate, because we never got to spend our money because of the pandemic. So may naiipon tong mga millennials last year when there were travel restrictions. Therefore, it is the best time to actually explore with what Joey mentioned, that developers are stretching payment terms, making a lot of concessions, some not even offering down payments. This is the best time to really seriously explore the possibility of making that major decision of buying a piece of real estate. So definitely, if I were in Palm and the shoes of many millennials, I'd do it now. And how do I get attracted? Clearly, the millennials are digital natives. They would like a seamless transaction without compromising security. They would love to look into aspirations and some form of advocacies on developments that they feel they can connect to their language. Right? So when developers can put all of this together, I think the millennials will be there to respond to the call, not just for investment, but because they can speak the language of these millennials.
This is for both Prof and Joey. I think, as mentioned by Pam, the intent is there, but sometimes there are factors that hinder. I mean, what can developers do to better entice this market? Because like if we total Pam spending online, buying different items, I think it would be more than enough to cover for the down payment, the initial down payment. But what else can developers do? And I mean, are they ready for this type of market? The next gen buyers? Joey or Prof?
I'll start. Okay,
Sure.
with developers, one scheme that they've been implementing already is the extended payment terms. Okay, so this attractive extended payment terms has really helped the developers to entice buyers, including millennials, the add to cart generation during this times of economic uncertainty. But not only that, I think developers can further tap this market by enticing them to invest in a condo unit, because at number one, if you look at the other investment options in the Philippines, and after all, we don't have a lot of investment options in the Philippines. It's practically just the stock market or the property condo unit. And if you compare the two investment options, it is the condominium unit, the property that is less volatile to, of course, global economic shock. So that should somehow entice the young investors to invest or buy a condo unit. Not only that, I think what really resonates with the young buyers, the millennials, is the fact that they're seeing a lot of infrastructure projects being built, developed by the government all around Metro Manila, and even near other urban areas, Pampanga, Cavite, Laguna, Batangas. And we believe that once these projects are completed, they will further raise the attractiveness of a condo unit and further improve its leasing prospect. So, these are just some of the schemes that developers, we believe, should maximize and highlight. Not only that, we believe also that the working from home is not just a temporary solution. In fact, a lot of companies, BPOs, are already implementing work from home scheme. It's either they're implementing split operations now, 50% working from home, 50% of staff in a traditional office setup, but some of them already implementing 100% work from home scheme. So we believe that this work from home setup will be for the long haul. It will not just be for the next 3 to 6 months. And if you are a freelancer, a millennial, then you should invest in your own condo, because you need to carve out your own home office moving forward. And the Philippines is also one of the fastest growing gig economies in the world. If I'm not mistaken, we're the 6th fastest growing gig economy in the world. What does this mean? We have a lot of freelancers here in the Philippines. And if you're a freelancer, it will just be a very attractive proposition, investment option to buy your own condo unit, because especially with all the freelancing and work from home schemes being implemented and allowed by companies all over the world, not just in the Philippines. So these are some of these schemes that we believe developers should highlight, and to entice more younger millennial buyers to invest in their own condo.
Thank you. Prof, how about you? How can we convince Pam?
So how do we woo Pam and millions of millennials out there? For me, it's all about practically changing in a different perspective, the manner of wooing millennials like Pam. One is leverage technology. Millennial generation prefers going online. So technology through mobile apps must find its way into the home buying process. It has to be seamless. It has to be fast, again, without compromising security. So by leveraging technology, developers will definitely have the edge and can capture this group of a new generation, this add to cart generation. Second, there should be less questions because they are impatient. Right? During my time, it was all referral. We buy real estate based on most likely newspaper ads. Now it's a combination of newspaper ads, reputation, credibility, and traditionally, it's fine, needs, habits, but it's also the lifestyle and the technology combined. So even in the Singapore experience I've had, some millennials, they do buy blind because they trust the brand, but they're willing to go at it, not necessarily even visiting sites, because the portal, the technology, can make a big difference. So it's all about fast, seamless. It's harnessing technology, and we should mirror millennial values. I mentioned about their beliefs, their values, the so-called authenticity. If you can add social, environmental responsibility, these are important values that the millennials are currently embracing, and developers must heed and must talk this language if they want to draw more millennial property buyers. You see, the divide between investing in the stock market and stretching payment terms are very thin. Halos konti na lang. But the volatility in the stock market, millennials would prefer stability over the volatility. So the advantages are there. That's why I said Southeast Asia, we are looking at a massive movement of millennials buying real estate. In the Philippines, I agree with Joey, a big chunk are already in the millennial space. As a matter of fact, has overtaken the overseas Filipino workers' appetite as far as portfolio. But we can do more. We can do more, not just locally, but attracting hordes and hordes of overseas millennial investors also.
Thank you. We've heard it from the expert. Now, again, going back to my next gen buyer, to Pam, to this news market. Pam, what would actually entice you to actually consider putting or adding to cart a property?
Well,
what are the factors?
Prof mentioned the importance of stability. And I think the past year has parang really shown us the importance of stability and having a place to call home, you know, because we've never spent more time at home than we have in the past year. And of course, that makes you think, you know, like, where that need to have some place that you can call talagang yours, I think is something that's making me think. I think one of the things that's also parang the reason it hasn't been a priority for me is because I don't have a family. I have a younger brother who's really heavily looking into real estate right now, as of this moment. As in, we've been having conversations about this for the past few weeks, because he started a family. So I think that's one of the things. But one important thing that would entice me, this is a deal breaker. The property developer, the property has to be pet friendly, because I have a dog and I'm a slave to my dog. So I need a place that will welcome both me and my dog. But yeah, the desire is there. I just really think it needs to become a less daunting idea, you know, because of course one part is the money, because, you know, it sounds like, my God, so much money you're going to spend for how many years. But apart from that, it's also the process. Like, how much paperwork will this require? Am I signing off my life? You know, but I think this is the importance of having a section like Inquirer Property, educating people like me, diba? Like breaking down the process and what a joyful thing it is actually to buy real estate. And yeah, I think the past year has really made me think about things, and I need to chill on buying toys so I can finally make my big ticket purchase.
I'm posing this question to both Prof. Eric and Joey. I mean, do you think that the next gen buyers are ready for this big purchase that is property investment? And what do you think will make them add the property to their carts? Maybe we could start with Prof.
Oh, like what Pam said, it should be frictionless. Not just seamless, but frictionless, because they're impatient. They don't want to go through the whole gamut of, like what she termed it, daunting. I know it's a life-changing investment, but if developers can make it so friendly, not just by way of stretch payment terms, but less paperwork and a lot of education coming from all sides, that this particular crib is a walk in the park, there's going to be a beeline to condominium purchase, especially condominiums. That, in fairness to developers, they've made it less daunting, no? And then it speaks about emotions, their aspirations, and essentially making it even furnished units, because Millennials don't want to go through the hassle of a 2-month, painstaking touch point that's so clearly a waste of their time. So if this can be addressed, I believe millennials and the developers would be a wonderful alignment, and creating more volumes for the industry.
Thank you, Prof. How about you, Joey?
Well, I agree with Prof. And just to add to what Prof mentioned, I think developers should also start migrating online, be more aggressive in tapping this millennial market by implementing digital platforms. So you have virtual inspection of condominium units, you have real estate management services that will help the millennials handle all the nitty-gritty and other technical and paperwork. So I think that's what developers should do, because after all, if you really want to tap and maximize the potential of this millennial market, you need to follow the trends that they've been following. You need to be updated with what they've been doing, perhaps do more promotional videos online. You have the likes of TikTok, for example, just to capture their interest. And I think that is a good start as well. So I think for developers, they should really be more innovative and just see what this market really wants, and gravitate towards what the millennial and the add to cart market prefers at this point.
Wow, this has been such an interesting talk, and I'm sure we've all picked up a lot of insights from today's webinar. Thank you so much to our speakers, AVIDAland, for partnering with us, and of course, our organization partners, Colliers International and Wong & Bernstein Advisory Group. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. But before we officially close our webinar, may we hear some final thoughts from our panelists, starting with Prof, followed by Joey and Pam.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity to share some insights. But one thing is clear, pent-up demand for real estate has been stoked by the virus crisis. And despite all this soaring unemployment and the gloom-doom scenario, I think all systems clear that we're heading towards post-vaccine days, which means people will start getting back their paychecks. There will be a lot of optimism about long-term futures, and absolutely part of their wish list and their pecking order of things is home purchasing. So I said if I were a millennial now, I would really list down my portfolio, because if Pam wishes to retire early or become semi-active, say 20 years from now, semi-active, passive income comes into the picture, right? Passive income. And when there's passive income after acquiring products or condominiums or houses many years back, you can have the best of both. Have income, no pressures, but you can still do whatever you want in life. So it's all about loving yourself and investing early so you can partake of the joys of an early retiree.
Thank you, Prof. Joey?
Okay, let me paraphrase a few points that I raised in my Colliers review column. But, we're seeing a lot of positive news about the potential rollout of a COVID-19 vaccine. Economic analysts are projecting a much faster economic growth next year. And we hope that this economic rebound will redound to the property market. And, if you look at the population segments, one population segment that will really help the economy rebound and the bounce back stronger is the millennial segment, is the add to cart segment. So we developers that are really trying and planning to tap this pent-up demand, especially once market sentiment recovers and the demand really rebounds, should maximize this market and really capture the demand from this millennial and add to cart segment. And we already highlighted a few suggestions and recommendations for developers and how they can further maximize this segment that we believe will help drive the property sector moving forward.
Thank you, Joey. And now, Pam.
For millennials watching this, what I would like to tell you is don't be like me. And I wish I can ask Joey and Prof. Soriano to plan my future and help me figure out my finances and what I'm doing with my life. But I'm challenging millennials who, like me, probably have said, I can't buy a house or a condo, I can't afford it. I'm gonna do this too, I swear. I'm gonna list down everything you've been spending on, and you'll be surprised. I think we will all be surprised at how much we actually spend on little things, because these things add up. And in reality, we can actually make an investment that's gonna be a real investment, you know. For developers, I think it would be great if like, you know, cause we're a generation that's so used to having things laid out for us, you know, and we're so used to instant gratification. And if it's hard, we might just not do it. So try to make the process easier, and break it down for us again, because I said like it really sounds daunting. And I'm not even like a millennial. I'm like on the older side of the millennial spectrum, but that's still daunting to me. And I know like there are people who figured it out, because I have friends who bought multiple properties already. But there are people like me who are like, like there's too many steps, you know. So try to make it easy for us, because the truth is, who doesn't want a home, diba? Like everybody would want a place that they can call their own, especially at a time like this. So yeah, I challenge the millennials. Let's do this. I think this has been such an eye-opening discussion for me. It's given me a lot to think about, and maybe by after like maybe several webinars more, I'll be telling you that, hey guys, I just bought my first property finally. And thank you so much for inviting me, Inquirer Property.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. And just a simple one reminder from me, please, the next time that you push that button, the next time that you add to cart, please try considering buying a property, because who knows, maybe if you start early as Prof and as Joey and as Pam has mentioned, you'll be ready for the future. This wraps up our webinar today. Before we sign off, we want to remind you to take advantage of the 30-day free trial of Inquirer Plus, the Philippine Daily Inquirer's digital newsstand. For more information, you may visit inquirer.com.ph, Inquirer Plus, and check out the QR code on your screens. Again, this is Tex Samaniego of the Inquirer Property section. Thank you, good day, and happy adding to cart.
From a life on your own to a family of your own. From walking her to school to walking her down the aisle. From the saddest endings to happier beginnings. Avida.